sitting, but I'm certainly still in my tent. We've been outside wandering about, fossicking and seeing what we could see. There you see we have now arrived on the tent from Cheetah Plains. I think that's rather a special thing that we're able to do, to show you exactly how far we've gone. We'd also like your feedback on it, quite frankly, to see, does that actually work? Does that give you a context of where we are, or is it just a great blur of confusing topography? Let us know. We're working on them. They are a work in progress. Now, what I did find when I was outside was this burr. Now, you've all been walking through the bushes and been stuck with these things that get into your socks or onto the hairs on your legs, if you happen to have furry legs like mine, and they're almost impossible to get off. And that is why, look at the incredibly sharp points on the hooks. They're like particularly sort of virulent and tangled Velcro. And inside this burr, of course, is a seed from which more of the... I don't know what plant this came from, but the seed will grow into whatever it was and will create more burrs. But look at them. They're astounding. Now, if you come back to me, what I will do is I'll show you, how sticky it is. Just watch my hand as I open it out. You see that, David? It's just astounding. It's amazing how sticky it is, and there it is sticking onto my hair. That's the most fascinating shot you'll see all day, isn't it, David?
Yes, Brian.
Yes, very nice. Now, what else we have here? The fossicker-in-chief, Taylor McCurdy, has found us an uthika that seems to have something in it. But whatever it is, let me shake it next to my microphone. Whatever it is, I don't think it's alive if it's bouncing around like that. So let's open it up. We'll put it onto the microscope, onto the little table of the world's most irritating microscope. We'll cut it open with my very fine scalpel blade. You can see that I have here the same one that we use to behead Woody. It is, I'm afraid, bespattered in woodpecker blood. We're just going to chop the end off, maybe. It's proving quite difficult to get into. Right, there we are. Now, open it up. You can see there, can you, David?
Yes.
Well, wasn't that exciting? That is a little bit like opening up a gift that is a box and finding in it nothing. Ah, there's what was there. That's what was making the noise. That little piece there. Let's put him under the microscope and see if it is in fact an alien life form or just something that is like a stone. I suspect the latter quite strongly. Let's go up a little bit, push it under there, and try and focus. This is absolutely riveting, isn't it, David? I mean, it's a real world of discovery. I don't know what that is. It looks like a piece of mantis brain, perhaps. I couldn't begin to tell you what that is, but that's what was shaking around in the Uthika. That is so disappointing. I expected to find a kind of hardened, half-formed mantis in there. Instead, we found, I don't know what we found, really. You know what? If you look to the top and left of that thing, I wonder if that isn't the forming of legs or joints, perhaps, of the mantis. But maybe not. Maybe it's just its brain. Anyway, that's that one there. Now, the next thing I have to show you, it was disgusting, is this piece of wood that Stef found yesterday for me. And I'm just going to carve it up a little bit so that you get a really nice sense of its smell. Highly toxic, and that smell, if you burn this wood, it can in fact kill you. But what my grandfather used to do, and I hardly remember the old boy, but he used to have a big log of tambuti in his home, and in winter, during when he had a fire in the hearth, he'd put this on for about probably about 5 minutes. It would fill the room with this delicious scent, and then he'd take it off so as not to poison the family to death, which of course would have been unfortunate. The other thing I'm going to show you is the grain on this wood. Look at that. Hundreds of colors of gold, copper, and very dark red. That particular red piece on the bottom right there may be woodpecker blood. Okay. We'll see what else we can find in the bush out here. Let's go across to Jamie and have a look at the home of a bird.
I'm so relieved that the Shikra have decided to stay and continue to nest in this particular spot. I thought they'd moved and abandoned this nest site, but I was mistaken. And look at this amazing little bird. Incredible birds of prey, very, very tiny, with that bright cherry red eye that is so distinctive. We hardly ever get to see Shikra on our live safaris, so the fact that we've got a nesting pair is just so incredibly special, and we're able to watch them, hopefully, as they raise their brood. For now, though, the Shikra is currently occupied, fixing up its nests. Looks as though it's building. I don't think they've laid an egg yet, although we are getting to that point at the time of the year when most of our birds of prey, and in fact most of our other birds as well, are going to start nesting. This is incredible to watch. Now, the first time we found this nest, the pair of them was here, and they were busy breaking off branches, which I have to be honest, I didn't know that they did. I thought they just collected fallen ones. I didn't realize that they actively, off he goes, that they actively broke off the branches that they used to build their nests. Now I've also seen the warburgs doing it, so it's obviously quite a common bird of prey thing. They've got the strength and they've got the talons and the skill to break off branches. We saw the warburgs doing it with the guari bushes. I wonder where the other one is. I'm going to try and reposition so we can get another view of it. It's also known as the little banded goshawk. Now this is the smallest of the goshawk species that I think we see out here. I'm trying to think if there's one smaller. I don't think so. Where have you gone, little Shikra? Yeah, he definitely stopped there. Where did he go from there? Oh, there. Here we go. Awesome. Now, James, you were wondering, James Richard from New York, good morning as always, and welcome to our sunrise safari. You wanted to know which of our birds lays the smallest eggs. I don't know which bird would lay the smallest one. My suggestion would be a fairy flycatcher, since it is one of the smallest, tiniest little bird species that we get out here. I'd actually wouldn't mind passing that question on to some of the other guides, perhaps Brent and James, and see what their opinions are, and Stef, in terms of which would be the smallest. My guess would be a fairy flycatcher would be very, very small. And of course there's sometimes a bit of a strange correspondence between the size of the bird and the size of their eggs. Oh! That's exactly what the Shikra thought of that sentence, which is fair enough, because it wasn't really a very well formulated one at all. I sort of mean that... Oh, bye. Off he goes again. Let's try this one more time. I sort of mean some birds lay eggs that are disproportionately large for their size, and some slightly smaller. That was what that entire convoluted sentence was meant to mean. The pair of them are here. There's two. One is still in the marula tree, and the other is gone. The joys of live wildlife filming, particularly when your subjects have wings. Come on. And particularly when they decide to pop themselves straight into the sun. There you go, you should be able to see it from there, Viam. In the back of that marula tree. There we go, well done. How exciting is this? The joy, of course, of our live safari experience. You might come out here on safari and perhaps maybe even a couple of weeks driving around, but you'll never have the follow-on that these live drives are able to provide. We can stay here, and I'm really hoping that they will. We'll watch them as they raise food. And off they both go. So they're heading off. They've got to balance their time between nest building and feeding themselves as well. And of course the female has to start to really bulk up so that she can prepare for egg laying, dedicated to raising their brood. Now there's that messy nest one last time. Messy but surprisingly structurally sound. Decided that they're fluttering off. Let's go back over to Brent, who's done a marvellous job of finding those Styx lions on Cheetah Plains. Let's bounce all the way back to our...
So we've caught up with the big male lion, and he's having a snooze in the shade. And while we've been sitting here, something else, you're going to have to come back to see what it is. Now there we go, there's the male lion sleeping in the shade, and the river Styx has been flowing overnight, and the Styx Pride living up to their name. Brian noticed while we're sitting here that there's a buffalo carcass. So they caught two. Let's go have a... Now, with the amount of vultures around, and there's already two carcasses, and the cubs, I almost wonder if there's a third. Not impossible, especially with this drought and these buffalo herds suffering quite heavily at the moment, having to travel massive distance between food and water. So there we go, another adult buffalo cow. And, oh, there we go. They've eaten a bit more of this one. There she is. There's another lioness, so we've seen two lionesses now. How's that, Brian? So we've seen two lionesses and 4 cubs and 1. So we're still missing 1 lioness. And now Fran's wondering how long will it take to pick a buffalo. Sorry, Brian, quickly, look at that. There's a tree climb cub. He's quite high off the ground. Sorry, Fran, distracted there by... Now, it all depends. Fran sometimes can be picked hours, especially if there's enough vultures present. From the vultures, it'll probably 2 or 3 days. But let's go back in the tent.
I am imitating, of course, the crested barbet outside. We've been looking at egg sizes on, and we have found that the smallest egg that we can find so far grey penduline tit egg, just 14 millimeters or just over half an inch long. Apparently slightly longer than that, at about 25 millimeters, which is about... We're going to tech loop.
And the lines are very spread out at the moment. There's the one cub still up in the tree, and I think they're lying in these trees because of the rough bark to help them with the etch. We can't really see them too well. Male's still fast asleep. But we're going to make space now. There's quite a lot of other cars who haven't seen lions yet today that are on their way here. Let's go past the male again. No, we didn't get the best look at him. But isn't this exciting? Nkuhuma's on a buffalo kill, so are the Styx. And the lions are sitting pretty at the moment. Standing by. And we're just waving to Ryan, who's up on the other vehicle. Apparently there's some Safari Live fans on the vehicle, so just saying a quick hello. Hi everyone! And there we go, we're back with the Birmingham Boy, fast asleep. Looking very happy. He's got 2 different buffaloes to choose from. And it looks like he might have eaten from both. He's quite obese. Standing by. Copy, thanks. There we go, look at that. He's got himself a nice patch of shade. It's not going to last too long before he's going to have to move again. Yeah, well, we're going to probably keep moving. Let some other people get a chance to come in and have a look at these lions. While we do that, let's jump back on board with Stef as he plays with some sticks.
Yes, you catch us in the process of refining my trap that I've made. Now, trapping is a brilliant survival technique, not only because it provides you with the opportunity to trap for animals that are active both in the day and quite simply deploy quite a few traps for relatively little energy expended. Now, yesterday I made a trigger and a trigger stick. This is my trigger. I made that out of a piece of monkey orange, and the reason why I used monkey orange is because it really needs to be as strong as it can possibly be. And my trigger stick I made out of a piece of terminalia, and I did that because the trigger stick needs to be able to be worked, and I know that the local guys out there have used terminalia to work their wares on the metals for hundreds of years, and that's why I'm using that. Now I set my trigger over here so that you can have a look at it. I'm using dental floss because dental floss is a fantastic survival tool. It is made of ultra strong fiber, and literally, although you can bite through it fairly easy, there isn't a lighter weight fiber that gives you as much strength. Steel would be better, but of course I don't want to do that out here. Alright, now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a loop. I haven't quite figured out exactly how my loop is going to be attached just yet, but I think what I want to do is attach it to my trigger. There we go. I'm going to do this. I'm going to tie it because I don't want this to come loose. This needs to stay Now, a lot of you might be asking, you know, what's the difference between this and snaring? What's the difference between trapping and snaring? Essentially, from a definition point of view, not much. But I won't be using this to catch animals. This is just a demonstration about a survival technique. And people have been using survival techniques for centuries. They developed from our earliest means of collecting protein. For us to run around in the bush with a bow and arrow and with spears is something that is more fantasy than reality. The reality is to hunt big things is dangerous. And there are a lot more smaller things in the world than there are bigger things. And it's a lot easier to catch mice and rabbits and Franklin and, you know, all that stuff than it is to catch buffalo and elephant, and no matter how we decide to do those traps. So what I'm basically doing is now I'm going to be doing a loop here at the end. So I twist this through itself. Hopefully my shaky hands don't betray it too much. Can you all see the concentration creases on my forehead? I'm sure Kirsty and them are having a good laugh. So let me just get that done. Just looking for a little loop. There we go. Kirsty says that's affirmative. They are laughing at us quite a lot. Alright, then I do this. I might even decide to floss my teeth with this when it's finally done. Alright, now I'm going to set my trigger. I'm going to set the hair trigger on that in a little bit. I'll be a lot more careful if this is actually for food purposes in making sure that these particular sticks were a bit longer. Of course, you can try and get yourself a loop that stays open. I'm missing a portion of this for you. Let me just see what I can do here to make it a little bit easier. Anyway, the loop needs to stay open here, and then what you do is you set the trigger here. Whoop.
Now, everybody, sorry about that. Now you can hear my voice echoing twice. Ha 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 ha. Now, just before I show you what I've got over here, I must just display something to you. Just over here, outside the tent, is Taylor. Here she is. Hello, Taylor.
Good morning,
now,
everybody.
Taylor has constructed something that she believes to be a, well, I'm going to let you talk us through it. No, you can't because you don't have a microphone on. I'm going to, why don't you tell us what this is?
Getting very intimate with James
Yes.
this morning. So, this morning I managed to create this wonderful piece of equipment for things that you can find in your kitchen. As you can see, I've got some tape, thank you cameraman, and I've got this packet which was from a lamp that I purchased, and then I found this trusty stick and a friend's
And what's
stick.
it for?
Well, the main purpose of this is to catch flying insects. Yesterday I was running around dive bombing, very dirty. I don't think the laundry staff was very happy with the state of my clothes. However, I've decided that I need a net. Could not find a net in town, but here we go.
How
a
many
packet.
insects have you caught with this thing?
Well,
Be honest.
this morning I caught a moth, but it was dead already. But no, this afternoon will be the real test. Unfortunately, nothing has
Yes.
quite woken up, but that's my excuse that I'm going.
It is my humble opinion that this is going to be an insect braining implement rather than an insect catching one. This, of course, will be very effective at knocking an insect completely senseless before it drops haplessly into the bottom of the net. Either way, maybe it will be effective when the insects start flying. I'm unconvinced so far, but let's see what happens. Thank you for your efforts.
It's a pleasure.
And maybe Mark II, maybe slightly
Mark II?
less filled, but I mean,
No problem.
as you were.
That's my
Thank you.
project. Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Now, she has actually been relatively successful today. The other experience or experiment that we've had has been with this freezing thing. I can hear oxpeckers. Oxpeckers sit on antelope and buffalo, but I don't see anything there. Taylor found a Polyrhynchus ant, everyone, and the Polyrhynchus ant, of course, is a very fast mover, but not when it's been placed in the cooler box for a little while. Now, it's going to warm up again, and it's going to become a lot more mobile, so before it does, we need to quickly take the microscope out and have a look at it. Don't move. It's already too mobile. It's not cold enough yet, but there it is. If we go quickly to the microscope feed, you might see, there we are. There you are. There it is. Polyrhynchus, the ant, kicking away. Now, I don't know if you can see, but it's got those spines on its abdomen. The spines on the abdomen, I'm sorry everybody, I know that really is not a great shot. We're going to put him back in the cooler box, I think. Just cool him down a bit and then we'll have a better look at him. He will be released fully intact once he's been in the cooler box for a little while. Next thing I wanted to show you is this quite horrific creature. Look at that. It's a fly. Now, it's a big fly that we managed to catch yesterday. I did kill this. I felt nothing for killing this fly, I have to tell you. I don't know why. I feel like a fly should have less right to life than me, but I do. And so I murdered it, and here it is. Now, what I particularly want you to look at is those red things. Can you see those two little red things? You want to know what a mite looks like? That, everybody, is what a mite looks like. So we found one on the eye of the fly. That rhymes, David. And what's interesting to me is that if you read about what drives so much of the evolution of life, what you find is that it is the avoidance, largely, of parasites. A mite like this is probably a parasite on this fly. So even the humble fly will be in a constant war with parasites, parasitoids, viruses, bacteria, fungus, mites like this, various other things that will try and take its nutrients and will, in an effort to survive, in much the same way that I suppose you might consider us parasites of the world. And that's what's going on here. The mites, I believe, also to be dead. Yes, they don't seem to be moving. I will tell you how I killed this fly, if you'd like to know. It was quite effective. What I did was that let's come back to me if you don't mind. What I did was I put it into this box here, and it flew around in there for a while, and it wouldn't stop moving around. So what I then did was to put a little bit of hand sanitizer inside it, and that very effectively poisoned it. So we shall be doing that again, no doubt, with many of the larger fly species that we find out here. Stefan Winterboer, I believe, is still he's frozen. He can't be crossed to at the moment. Let's put the ant into its cooler box. I don't know that I've got much else new to show you at the moment, but there was something. Alright, while I find what it was, let's head across to Stef. He has unfrozen himself, unlike Polyrhynchus.
I have unfrozen myself, and I've managed to get that loop right that my shaky hands weren't wanting to get right, and now I'm setting the area, I'm setting the stage. So basically what I've done is I've created my loop, as you can see over there, for the size of the animal that I'd like to catch. And this in particular is a bird trap. Birds are easier to catch than mice, and they also don't, than mice and rabbits. They also require less effort. They can't chew through things. So now what I've done is I've set my trap. I'm now setting the stage, and what you want to try and do is you want to try to create a type of funnel effect into your trap. So you use bits and pieces of wood and camouflage. What you can see is I'm creating a natural avenue for the animals to come through. Ooh, I'm almost setting my own trap off over here. For the bird to come through. Dust it with a little bit of, and then what you do is you go and fetch some fresh elephant dung. Yeah, and remember folks, this is just as a display. This is as a survival technique display. I'm not actually setting anything over here. Now what I'm doing is I'm using some elephant dung to bait my trap. I want to catch a bird here. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting some elephant dung, which has got some seeds in it, some termites. Right, and I'd look for the freshest dung that I can. You don't want to go and use old dung like this. Obviously, the bush is littered with old dung. Birds have already had a chance to go through this, and so you'd really want a fresh one, or one that's just covered in termites. That's what you actually want. All right, and now what I try and do is set my hair trigger. Depends on the bird that you want to catch. Now a hair trigger is exactly that. It's the sensitive part of your trap. There we go. Comes through the trap. Gets its body stuck, walks a bit, boom, and is bounced off its feet, as you can see. Trap works. 100%. Ta-da! Alright, reset it for you again. And there we go. Alright, so that is my trap. Let's do it one more time, just for you. Out there, bird comes in, pushes to get through to the dung, gets caught, springs the trap, and is suspended in the air, waiting your pleasure. Alright, and that is Trapping 101. You're off to Jamie for an update.
And no live safari experience is complete without spending a little bit of time with Africa's giants. And here we have what promises to be a magnificent sighting of a whole herd of elephants making their way towards us slowly but surely. Hey, not the Kigelia. The Kigelia. Don't eat our sausage tree. It's the only sausage tree on Djuma. Hey! Shame. Can't begrudge them any food this time of year, although I do wish he wouldn't eat the sausage tree. As I said, we've only got one of them. It'd be nice if we could keep that particular one intact. Yes, little boy, I also saw you trying to dig up the pipes. The elephants at the moment, whilst they do have water around, there's the Djuma pan. Oh, look at that. Footrest. Ah, there we go. Stretching right up. Whilst they do have access to water, elephants always prefer to drink fresh stuff if they can find it. And what that means is that at this time of year, they become, I wouldn't call them a nuisance, but they certainly have a tendency to dig up water pipes that take the water from underneath the ground to the various lodges and the various houses of the area And on a relatively regular basis, they dig them up and break them so that they can suck up the water if that's coming through them. And that was a male that was stretching up to the sausage tree. We've got a female here and a little calf. Ears flapping gently as the morning starts to heat up. A certain sense of serenity that we get whenever we spend a little bit of time with these wonderful creatures. And there's probably about 10 or so in this particular herd. They're just taking their time moving through the dense vegetation. Oh, little one. Stopping to have a quick drink from Mom. And very soon, that supply is no longer going to be on offer. You can see this tusk is just starting to poke through. And this little one is probably about 2.5, maybe even close to 3. So it's going to be weaned relatively soon. At which point, of course, baby elephants, like other animals, have serious weaning tantrums. We see it a couple of times with the lion cubs as well. By the way, we will be going back to those lion cubs. We do see it with the lion cubs as well, where if the mom moves off while they're still trying to suckle, they get very stroppy. So nothing gets as stroppy as a baby elephant can do. Kerry, you've asked a fascinating question that, funnily enough, I never knew until I started working at Safari Live. And I think it was when I very first started working here, and Scott was answering a question on arthritis, and that's the question that Kerry has. Scott was answering a question on elephant arthritis, and we all concluded that none of us knew anything about it, and off we dashed to do some research. So Kerry's doing the same thing, and has recently discovered that elephants in captivity suffer from painful arthritis. And do we ever see any signs of this in the wild? It seems most definitely to be far more prevalent for elephants in captivity, which just goes to show there must be some kind of link in terms of the activity and the movements, or perhaps the type of food that they're eating. There must be something different that elephants experience in captivity. If I had to sort of try and guess at what it would be, my suggestion would be the amount of movement. That being said, when you see a really old elephant, especially the old cows I've noticed, they have a certain, I don't know if it's arthritis, I really don't, it doesn't seem to occur that much in the wild, but they do have a certain way of moving quite gingerly, carefully, and slowly. And that's possible that it's because their joints are hurting them a little bit. And just think, I mean, look at her going down on her knees. Awesome. She's going to try and move this whole tree away so that she can get to what's underneath it. Oh. That was quite a half-hearted effort. Shh. You finished? Yes, thank you. And how much pressure those joints are truly under. An elephant, of course, walks on its tiptoes, believe it or not. It's got 5 toes, and they are spread out and around the circle of the foot on the right on the tips of the bone, and then resting almost kind of like a wedge shoe. They rest on a cushiony, spongy tissue underneath it. And that's what gives them that amazing roundness to their track, and also one of the big reasons why they're such silent walkers for such big animals. But just think, those poor toes. I know they're built that way, they're obviously designed that way for a reason. But carrying the weight for an adult bull elephant of up to 6 tons, 7 tons, in some record-breaking cases much larger than that. And yes, it's distributed across 4 feet, but it's still a mammoth task for an elephant's foot. It does make me wonder whether or not their joints don't start to ache after a while. Good morning to Christopher in Arizona. Another lovely question, and it's so bizarre because I've read something about this recently and I cannot remember the answer. And Christopher wanted to know where the story comes from of elephants eating peanuts. And I'm thinking perhaps we'll lay that blame on Hollywood or Disney. Dumbo siphoning up. Oh! What was that? It's a very funny sound. Dumbo is siphoning up peanuts with his trunk and cracking them open. I'm trying to think if there's some kind of connection to legumes. There's something I read somewhere about it. So those of you who are familiar, perhaps you know the answer to what I'm thinking of. I know there's some kind of connection with peanuts and where that story comes from. Of course, we don't get any peanuts naturally occurring out in the wild here. We might get certain legumes, or certain bulbs that might be similar, that elephants most definitely would target and are actually quite an important source of protein for them. I don't know where the story of the peanut-eating elephant came from. They certainly have a sweet tooth, that I can tell you. And there's nothing more that they enjoy than certain types of fruit. And there's elephants in parts of South Africa that have become notorious, and people have to be warned about them, for actually breaking into private motor vehicles that are parked in car parks and so on that have fruit in them. And the elephants have learnt to become car thieves. And they break open the windows and they pick up the pawpaws or the oranges or whatever happens to be in those cars, in those vehicles. I think that must be quite an interesting sight to see. Now, as lovely as these elephants are, I'm going to move on back towards those lion cubs for our last sort of half an hour of the sunrise safari. Let's travel back over, not too far away, just up the hill there, back to James in the tent.
Exoprosopa. That's what we have here, David. Yes, Exoprosopa. Let's have a look at him on the microscope. That's him there. Everybody, so named for the amazing wing patterns that he has, and we'll just go a little bit out and you can see that he is a fly. Another fly from the genus Exoprosopa. Now, there are many different kinds of these Exoprosopa flies, and you know what? The family contains over 940 different species of fly. And these particular ones are parasites. So their larvae will parasitize things like grasshoppers and bees. And they're actually called bee flies because of their adult's ability to hover and accurately hover. And I don't know, I'm sure many of you, if you come back this way, I'm sure many of you have had these amazing flies or insects hovering sort of accurately next to you, and then they move to the side sort of almost robotically, and then back, then forward, then up, and then down in an amazingly accurate way. And that's one of these things. And they have to hover like that because they feed from very tiny little flowers, and they've got a long proboscis that they stick into that flower. But you can imagine hovering above a flower like that and being able to stick in a long proboscis twice the length of your own body into the nectar or nectaries of a flower. You need to be extremely accurate and able to judge incredibly the air currents all around you, because one very slight movement will move your proboscis out of the nectary and you will be forced to go hungry. Now, what I thought we'd do, it's just come to me now, actually, a flash of inspiration. I thought we'd go outside for a second, because we talk a lot. I don't need those cookies, I've got them outside. We talk a lot about families and orders and different things like that, and kingdoms, and I thought maybe we'd just have a very quick diagram of the taxonomy of animals. And I think it's important because we talk about these things, but I think it's kind of taken almost for granted that people know what we're talking about, but they're not always terms that people get. So what we're going to do is, as we're approaching World Rhino Day, we'll do it for a rhino, okay? So we're going to classify a rhino from beginning to end, if you like. So the first thing we have is the kingdom. See that? We'll draw a little crown, David.
Yes.
Yes, that's what that is there. And the kingdom, of course, is animal. Right? Then we go down to class. And do you know what class it is, David?
No.
Well, you'll find that the class, in fact, sorry, I've made a mess here. We're going to go to phylum. And the phylum is a chordata, or vertebrates. So that means that it's got a backbone. Right? This is a very basic kind of idea. Vertebrate. right? And then we go down another level, and we go to class. And you know what class it is, David?
No,
It's a mammal, David, right? And then we go down to order. Do you know what order it is, David? It is a part of the, I think it is the odd-toed ungulates, right? Now, Carla, you want to know why we don't look at mammals, at least. You want to know why we don't look at rhinos, Carla? We don't look at rhinos because, ungulate. There we go. This is not particularly entertaining, but it's going to get slightly more so. Carlo, we don't look at them because they are obviously endangered by poachers. We don't want to contribute in any shape, way or form to poaching. We don't know if there'll be poachers watching the show or not. We're pretty sure there won't be, but we don't want to contribute in any shape, way or form to it, and so we just avoid showing them. Called in on the radios here, and that's basically why we don't show them. Then we go down to family. You can see I have absolutely no aptitude for proportion. The family, David, is the Rhinosauриdae. I'm just going to put rhinos. And then we go down to genus, and the genus for the white rhino is Ceratothemium. I'm absolutely hopeless at this. Ceratothemium, I think. And then we go down to species, and the species is Simum. Right, so the point here, everybody, let me get another color. The black one is not. So the kingdom, that's pretty obvious, it's an animal. It's not a plant, it's not a fungus, it's not a bacteria, it's not an algae, for example. A phylum, it's not, we know here that it is not an insect, so the insects would be off here, as will, or all the arthropods would be off here. We know class, it's a mammal, in other words, it's not a fish, and it's not a reptile, and the order, we know that it's an odd-toed ungulate, it's not even-toed, so it's not, say, a buffalo. Right? With the family, we know it's a rhino. We know it's not, for example, what would be another family of odd would be the horses. So we know it's not a horse. Ceratothemium, we know it's not a black rhino. There's actually no other representative of the genus. And there's only one white rhino. An amazing, incredible thing, and if you look over here, you can see it's very important that we look down towards that particular. Yes. Fantastic. Okay, that's all I have to tell you. And let's go across to Brent, who I think is in the Mawati drainage.
We're in search of the mythical white-throated robin that. So we're in the Mawati River. Of course, not only white-throated robin, also just checking, see if there's any sign of leopard around this dry riverbed. It's a favorite spot for leopard, but so far, no luck. Although the big cats of cheetah plains did eventually come out to play, and nice to see the Styx with not one, but 2 buffalo kills. I think we're a little bit late. We should have to listen to see if we could hear that white-throated robin calling. Ooh! Oh, he's going to fly past. No, go. Best. I just wish it would land. It is a beautiful butterfly if it ever lands. Where'd it go, Brian?
I lost it.
Lost it. Oh, well, there was a butterfly. It was a citrus squirrel. Better eating it.
I was just trying to sort of redo what I did before, but I'm not going to subject you to that. Let's go back in here and see what we can find you to look at. I feel 2 lessons in taxonomy from me in one day would be more than I think. Let's go to Polyrhynchus and see how he's doing. Sorry, David, I know this is very difficult for you to keep up with me lighting-wise, but I'm doing my level best here. I wasn't expecting to go. Let us remove this beastly fly from here. Now, Polly. On. Yes. No. Not calm. We're going to take loop. We are losing streak.
Robin chat. It's up ahead still. Sounds like a white-browed scrub robin, not the elusive white-throated. We will get this bird one day, I still must focus a full drive on searching for the white-throated robin chat. What do you think, Brian? I think we definitely need to get into pre-dawn. Oh, hello. What have we got? Oh, guys, unfortunately, it seems like the technical difficulties are not, and it's turning into a problem than we originally thought. So we're going to get stuck in, and hopefully it'll be all sorted. It's all business here, you know, with his dashing red tie, and we will see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Apologize and goodbye.